Hi, Dr. Melissa Felkins here with It's a Joyous Journey. We are halfway through the school year already. I can't believe it. And we have been using Essentials in Writing and Essentials in Literature Level 10 this year. We gave you a first impressions video and blog post at the beginning of the school year after we had been using it for about a month or so. And now we're here at the middle of the school year, and so I just wanted to give you a quick update as to how things were going for us. Essentials in Writing and Essentials in Literature Level 10 are both working really well for my freshman and my senior. We've combined them this year to do English together, and it works out really well. They can do peer editing, they can read stories together and discuss them, and we really like doing English together with all of our high schoolers. We have tweaked things a little bit to fit our needs, but the framework that's provided is really solid. There's an optional schedule in the front of the Essentials in Writing book that you can use to combine Essentials in Writing and Essentials in Literature for a full year credit. And we started out the year using that. We've modified that a little bit, and my kids are doing a unit of writing, then a unit of literature, then a unit of writing, and then a unit of literature. That just works well for us. It's our personal preference, and you can choose to do it any way that works for you. So let's talk about Essentials in Writing Level 10. It covers sentence structure, paragraph structure, essays, and a research paper. And we have worked our way through the sentences and paragraph structures, and now we're in the essays. And we have really appreciated how Mr. Stevens, the author of this curriculum, has carried over the paragraph structure into the essays. And basically, the structure that he gives for paragraphs is just expanded for the essays. And so it's something that the kids are already used to, and then they're able to just carry that over and use that structure for every paragraph in the essay, and then use an expanded form of that structure for the whole essay itself. One thing we've really appreciated about this curriculum is that it's presented in small chunks. That makes it easy for everybody to be able to digest. But just because it's presented in small chunks doesn't mean that it's not thorough. Mr. Stevens is very thorough in all of his teaching. He gives examples of every part of the essay. He also shows you quality versus ineffective examples, so the kids can look at that and kind of compare their work to it and say, oh, mine looks more like the quality, or maybe mine looks more like the ineffective. Maybe I need to do some more work to it. So that's a really cool thing too. And then he walks through the editing process with his students so they can really understand how to present their best work. I told you in the videos in the beginning of the year that we were going to talk about grading a little bit more in this video, and so we're going to do that now. We're going to focus specifically on how the essays are graded. There are 2 checklists provided for every essay. The first one is just a simple paragraph checklist that helps the kids make sure that they've included all the elements to the paragraph, like they learned in the previous sections of the curriculum. And the second one is a longer essay checklist that it kind of prompts the student to look for specific elements, and not only in the paragraphs but for the document as a whole. For instance, if it's the compare and contrast essay, that checklist will remind them, hey, did you really compare and contrast something? And it helps them to look at their overall document and be able to check things off a list and say, yes, I did this, yes, I did this, oops, no, I didn't do that. I need to go back and work on it a little bit more. And for us, that is really the biggest part of grading, if you want to even call it that. We tend to go for a mastery approach, and so it's more of, let's do this until we've done the best that we can do and we're presenting our best work. So with the checklist, my students can make sure that they've done everything that they can to write a great essay before they ever even give it to me for feedback. The other thing that Essentials in Writing uses is rubrics. If you're not familiar with a rubric, it's a grading tool that you can use to objectively grade written assignments or projects or other things. But it gives you a framework that awards points based on how well a student executed different elements of the written work. It just makes it easier for a teacher to grade fairly and consistently. And it also makes it clear to the student why they received the grade that they received. How many of you ever, when you were in school, got a paper back, a written paper that just had a grade at the top, and you're like, where did the teacher come up with this grade? It doesn't make any sense. There's nothing here telling me what I did right, what I did wrong. Maybe there's some marks on the paper, but it just wasn't really clear as to where the grade came from. And what a rubric does is it helps clarify that. Okay, we're going to look at the grammar and punctuation, and did they do everything correctly? No mistakes? We're going to give them 4 points for that. They have just a few mistakes, maybe we'll give them 3 points for that. Does it look like they didn't even try? Maybe they'll get 1 or 0 points for grammar and punctuation. And then you'll go into content or different things like that. And so if you have a rubric, and you give it to your students before they ever write so that they know what's expected of them, it's going to create self-confidence for them. There is nothing that will suck out a kid's self-confidence and excitement about an assignment more than thinking that they've done a good job and then giving it to the teacher and finding out that they did it completely wrong. They are not going to be excited about writing the next paper or doing the next project, are they? So if you give them a rubric up front for every written assignment and they know what's expected, and then you stick to it consistently, you're going to be able to see their confidence grow as you give them clear expectations every time. It's just a really good system to put in place. Now let's talk about Essentials in Literature Level 10. Just to remind you, Essentials in Literature is broken down into 4 sections. There's the fiction unit, the drama unit, the novel unit, and the figurative language or poetry unit. We spent the first semester doing the fiction unit, and I think we might be moving a little bit more slowly in literature since we've been putting more time into writing this year, but that's okay. It's not necessary to completely finish every curriculum every year. It's better to choose the things that are going to provide the most benefit for your students. And so with that in mind, when we came back from Christmas break, we were ready to read a novel. We are used to reading a lot of novels throughout the school year, and there's only one novel in Essentials in Literature. It's short stories through the fiction section, and so we've been reading a lot of short stories, but we haven't read a novel yet this year, and so we were all kind of missing that, and we were ready to get to the novel. So we skipped over the drama unit for now and went straight to the novel. We'll go back and pick up some of the drama and then finish out the year with the poetry. The novel that is included with Essentials in Literature Level 10 is To Kill a Mockingbird. And honestly, that was one of the main reasons that I chose Level 10 for my kids. I just feel like it's a really important book for kids to be exposed to. But it's a book that's really hard to read. When I'm reading it out loud, I just really can't bring myself to use those derogatory terms that are written. And so I replace them with different words, but I let my kids know ahead of time that when I say this, it's replacing a word that is not acceptable to use, and I make sure that they understand how easily those terms and those attitudes were just tossed around and used as common everyday language and thought in that time, because I want to make sure that that is not carried into future generations. When I chose Essentials in Literature Level 10 because of To Kill a Mockingbird, I had no idea that there was going to be an explosion about racial injustices in our country before the school year even began. So it was a little bit ironic that that happened. My husband and I, we've talked to our kids a lot about racism and prejudice, but reading this book together is giving us another chance to talk about it, to listen to them, and for all of us to learn together. So that just gives you a little bit of background on why we chose Level 10 for Essentials in Literature. But let's talk about how the novel unit is set up. The novel unit is set up to be done over 26 school days, and that's not including the summative assessment and the culminating activity. The reading is divided into 6 different sections. The way we've been doing it, we're not quite taking that long to complete it, and so each of the 6 sections, we're separating into 2 days. We'll read half of it the first day and half of it the next day. And we're also doing 2 of the lessons from the textbook in each of those days as well, either before or after our reading. And just to let you know, it's not expected that you're going to complete every activity that's in the textbook. You need to choose the ones that work best for your family, and we have found that a lot of the things we've already discussed within our natural conversations about the reading, and so there's no need to go back and say all of those things again. And so we don't do every activity that's in the book. Also, I don't make my kids do the written activities that are in the literature. I feel like they're already doing plenty of writing with the writing curriculum. Plus, we just really enjoy the discussions. I feel like it provides an opportunity for them to learn how to effectively communicate their opinions and to consider the opinions of others as well. That seems to be something that's missing a little bit in our world today. Of course, if you follow me at all, you know that I'm all about individualized education. I think that you should always make the curriculum work for you. So if you need to change things a little bit, that's fine. Just use it in the way that fits best with your student's style of learning. Now, grading. We talked about grading with Essentials in Writing, so I guess we should talk about it for Essentials in Literature as well. But to be honest with you, I'm not grading the literature. I've really always had a hard time with assigning grades to literature studies. I've never understood how things like the author's purpose and the theme and things like that can have right and wrong answers, because it's just really too subjective. I believe. And so I do think it's important for you to keep records for your homeschool students. But for literature, I choose to give grades based on participation and effort. If my students have completed all their assignments and done it in a thoughtful and reflective manner for literature, then they get full credit. And that's just how we choose to do it. I realize this might not work for everybody, so if you do feel that you need to give your students grades for literature, there is a simple and straightforward framework that's set up in Essentials in Literature to help you do that. There's a guide in the front of the resource book that breaks down point values for the different assignments so that you can assign grades. And then the written activities in the resource book also have a place for you to record the written grade. And you can just add the points up that are earned and divide that by the total number of possible points and get a percentage grade. Just make sure that you exclude the points for any activities that you've skipped from your total points possible, because that will affect your percentage grades. So that's my thoughts on grading literature. I don't do it, but of course, again, this is your homeschool and you do it in the way that you feel is best for your family. So final mid-year thoughts for Essentials in Writing and Essentials in Literature Level 10. I am still glad that we chose this curriculum for my senior and my freshman to complete together. They've both shown a lot of progress in their writing skills, and I feel like the foundational methods that they're learning will carry with them throughout their lives. For the literature, it's been very thought-provoking. I've really appreciated the maturity that I've seen in my kids as we've discussed difficult topics, and that as they've become aware of how life experiences can really produce different perspectives and shape somebody's beliefs. So I hope you're enjoying following us this year as we use Essentials in Writing and Essentials in Literature Level 10 for our homeschool high school. And I'll do a final follow-up at the end of the school year to let you know how it all came together. See you soon.